Knight Rider. What an absurd premise for a show, but it was a great one. Between the super cheesy 80s synth soundtrack and David Hasselhoff's ridiculous perm, it's a show that's definitely in the running for the Mount Rushmore of 80s TV shows. It had a pretty impressive run. 90 episodes and 4 seasons are more than most shows get to boast about. And you can't forget the made-for-TV movies and reboots it's inspired. And if current trends continue, you can be sure we haven't seen the last Knight Rider either. It seems everything these days gets the remake treatment. In this video, we're going to celebrate Knight Rider's 38th anniversary by taking a deep dive into some of its most fascinating bits of trivia. If you're a fan of the series, you're gonna want to stay tuned. But first, we've got the inside scoop of what happened to the original 1982 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am that defined the show. David is auctioning off his KITT car. It's impossible to talk about the show without talking about KITT, the autonomous, artificially intelligent talking car voiced by the one and only William Daniels. That's Mr. Feeney for all you Boy Meets World fans out there. Sure, David Hasselhoff was technically the star, but KITT stole the show. The cognitively aware vehicle was capable of taking out nearly any foe in its path. Who could compete with that? Well, now one lucky Knight Rider fan is going to have the chance to get their little mitts on their very own KITT. Car and Driver magazine reports that David Hasselhoff is currently in the process of auctioning off his very own personal KITT car. Sure, you won't get any of the weapons or fancy futuristic 80s tech that KITT sported in the show, and William Daniels won't be narrating your life, but it's a fully functional car complete with a very colorful display and flashy dashboard lights. KITT's aesthetic evolved over the course of the show. George Barris, the genius behind Adam West's Batmobile, ended up adding hood scoops, wings, and various other gadgets to the iconic ride for Season 3. He also made design modifications to allow the specialty vehicle to perform specific stunts. But regardless of all the tweaks, the pimped-out Pontiac always looked like a Firebird. If someone were to take one out on the road today, true fans of the show would be sure to recognize it as KITT. Last we checked, the current bid for the vehicle was at $500,000. If you want to get in on the action, you can place your bid on liveauctioneers.com. We'll put the link in the description. The winner of the auction will get another added bonus. Hasselhoff has agreed to show up to the new owner's garage and personally hand over the keys. So what are you waiting for? Grab your credit card and start bidding. But pro tip, don't tell your wife if you have one. She'll probably lack the same enthusiasm you have for your next big investment. The auction ends on January 23rd, 2021. But before you start bidding, take a moment to give this video a like. Show us some support by subscribing to our channel and turn on notifications by tapping the bell icon. And keep watching to find out some truly astonishing Knight Rider facts. Knight Rider combined the elements of the Lone Ranger and classic sci-fi shows. Glenn Larson had already made quite a name for himself in the 70s and 80s as creator of beloved shows like Magnum P.I. and Battlestar Galactica. In 1982, he came up with one of his most novel ideas, Knight Rider. Even though a talking car that fights crime does indeed sound a bit outlandish, because it absolutely is, the show was rooted in much more grounded TV classics. Larson really wanted Knight Rider to be like the Lone Ranger, but with a car. KITT was essentially the 80s equivalent of Tonto. The good versus evil narrative was inspired by the Lone Ranger, but it also stemmed from Larson's previous offerings in the realm of science fiction. Hasselhoff noted in his autobiography that KITT was directly inspired by HAL 9000 from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. The red strobe lights on the hood of the car were also a direct homage to the Cylon scanner lights on Battlestar Galactica. William Daniels insisted KITT have more personality. KITT was intended originally to sound more robotic and synthetic, but William Daniels fought hard for the sentient vehicle to have a more human-like personality. He envisioned KITT as bright and vibrant, and maybe even with a sense of humor. The producers gradually allowed KITT to show more of Daniels' personal sense of charm and charisma. Larson got a huge chunk of merchandising residuals. Larson wasn't stupid. He'd been around the TV world long enough to get an idea how he should negotiate his contract with Universal. Not only was he business savvy, he also knew what his creation was worth. As such, he made sure he received a large cut of the merchandising rights when drawing up his contract. Once Knight Rider's popularity escalated, so did Larson's bank account. He worked out an agreement with the studio to receive a 50% cut of all the residuals for toys, models, clothing items, and everything else. If you bought a lunchbox with KITT and Hasselhoff on it back in the day, Larson received half that profit. Today, those kinds of deals are practically unheard of. Studios wised up, but at the time, Universal had no clue just how profitable Knight Rider and its merchandising would actually be. William Daniels and Hasselhoff didn't meet face-to-face until the show's Christmas party. Even though they had noticeable on-screen chemistry, Hasselhoff and Daniels didn't actually sit in the same room as each other for quite some time after the show premiered. The first time they met was at the show's Christmas party, months after the show was already established as a hit. To put that in perspective, the series premiered in September, meaning the filming had already wrapped up months prior. Theoretically, the two could have been working on the show together for almost a year before ever shaking hands. Daniels took his job very seriously. He would show up to the studio, deliver his lines, and be on his way. Since he only provided the voice for KITT, there was really never a reason to bring him onto the set. In total, he would only ever need to come to the studio for about 45 minutes at a time for each episode. Sometimes he would come in and record 3 or 4 episodes worth of dialogue at a time. All he had to work with was the script with David's lines and his. He never got to watch the episodes while recording, but regardless of that limitation, he rarely had to re-record any of his lines. He was a natural, but it must have been surreal to work on a show for so long without meeting your co-stars. While at the Christmas party, the two had a pretty awkward moment while sitting at a table. Daniels reached out his hand and said, "Hi, I'm William Daniels. I play KITT." After Hasselhoff introduced himself, he added, "We have a hit, don't we?" That was their first conversation. Daniels was snubbed in the credits. At no point does Daniels' name appear in the opening or closing credits for Knight Rider. Apparently, that was Daniels' idea. He wanted the audience to really believe the car had a mind of its own. He loved keeping that mystery alive, but despite his best efforts, his plan failed miserably. People constantly recognized him as the voice of KITT everywhere he went. You gotta give it to the guy for trying, though. KITT was almost TAT. KITT is short for Knight Industries 2000. The car was originally conceived as having another name early on in production. TAT, as it was once known, stood for Trans Am 2000. KITT's evil arch-enemy's name, CAR, stood for Knight Automated Roving Robot. Peter Cullen was the voice actor called in to provide that nefarious vehicle's voice. 80s kids might remember him as the voice of Optimus Prime for the Transformers cartoons and movies. There was a specially modified KITT to mimic self-driving features. For all the scenes where KITT drives itself, Barris commissioned a specially designed vehicle with the steering controls on the right-hand side tucked just below the dashboard. A trained stunt driver was placed in that little dip and had to do their best to avoid appearing on camera, but they still had to sit just high enough to make out where they were going. Barris helped create multiple models of the car to perform specific stunts and fit the special needs of the show. Can you imagine having a cooler job than that? The theme song was inspired by an 18th century ballet. Stu Phillips composed Knight Rider's theme music, but he was heavily inspired by the works of Leo Delibes, especially his composition Cortège de Bacchus, for a ballet called Sylvia. Although the two works aren't carbon copies of each other, you can hear the similarities. Over the last several decades, numerous artists have sampled the Knight Rider theme music, including Busta Rhymes, Lil' Kim, and System of a Down. In 2005, Phillips won an award from BMI for having the most downloaded ringtone of all time. Phillips had to share that honor with Lalo Schifrin for his Mission Impossible theme music. So, what do you say? Are you going to try to win Hasselhoff's auction and take home your very own KITT? Can you imagine showing up to your next date in that? Anyway, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think they should come out with a new Knight Rider series or movie, or just leave the original alone and let it continue to stand out? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And before you go, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content.